Welcome back, everybody. So normally I would not review a game that I did not enjoy, but Rain World is such a unique exception, and I can appreciate so many things in the game that I want to try to recommend it to people who I know would be good candidates to play it. At the same time, this review is also meant to caution people who are like me, who would be too easily frustrated with it, who don't have the free time to commit to a game like this, because this game really does demand a lot of your time, a lot of patience, and I'll get into that a little bit later. If you are an existing fan of the game and you're hearing this and you're going to listen to the whole review, I would really appreciate it if you go to the comments section and you give your own recommendations for the game. Take what I'm saying, maybe offer a few counterpoints, but really try to sell the game to those who have not played it yet, because I will say more negative things about the game than positive, but like I said, this is also meant to double as a recommendation for those of you who just have incredible patience and who like challenging games. So, the first thing I'm going to do here is read to you the description from the Steam store page. And I'm really curious, this description combined with whatever clips I'm going to be showing on screen, I think I'm going to show the trailer for the Nintendo Switch version. I wonder what you're going to think of the game. You are a nomadic slug cat, both predator and prey in a broken ecosystem. Grab your spear and brave the industrial wastes, hunting enough food to survive, but be wary. Other, bigger creatures have the same plan, and slug cats look delicious. And the game has these 5 main tags: difficult, atmospheric, survival, platformer, and 2D. All of those tags fit. It is difficult, it is atmospheric, it's beautiful to just observe some of the landscapes and some of the environments. Survival, yes, and I'll explain that mechanic later. Platformer, absolutely, and 2D, sure. It's funny that that's a tag, but anyways. Now, that description that I read out to you, did that do a good job of explaining it? I'll go over in a little more detail and I'll just kind of restate what it is. So yes, you are this creature, a slug cat, and it is a survival game as you are trying to get back to your family. Something happens at the beginning where you become separated, and so you've got to traverse all of these dangerous little screens on the game. There's going to be monsters and other creatures that are trying to harm you. You can fight back in some ways, but most of your time is going to be spent dodging and evading. There will be some difficult platforming sections. There will be some really interesting platform sections where the physics is changed, and so your movement is going to be a little bit different. But those are few and far between. So, that's kind of the general overview of the game. Let me now give you my main gripe. This is a game that really demands a lot of your time. The challenges in this game, here's the big problem. When you overcome a challenge, you know what your reward is? More of the same challenge, usually a little bit harder. This is not a Metroidvania. This is not like Hollow Knight, which some of you may have seen, or you may have looked at this on the store page and thought, oh yeah, okay, it's a Metroidvania type game, cute little creature, awesome, great. No, it's no such game. You do not have any power-ups, you do not have any special abilities. So, as you're progressing the game and you're doing all of this back-breaking exploration, and you've done such a good job of evading all these really terrifying monsters, what do you get? Just convoluted routes and parts that loop around on the map and areas that don't necessarily go anywhere, or on a certain difficulty they might have little tidbits about the lore, but in a game where you're struggling so hard to survive, how much does the lore even matter? In a game where you're going to spend 20 hours plus on the main campaign, does it even matter if you have like 5 seconds of lore thrown at you every couple of hours? Anyways, here's the big problem with the systems, and here's where I think the game has genuinely poor game design. These two things are at odds with each other. One, trial and error is mandatory. That's not the worst thing on its own, right? There's tons of games where you don't necessarily know that there's a trap or pitfalls until you have to experience it for the first time. Then you know, second time around, you're going to avoid it. However, there is a system in place, a karma system, that punishes you for the mandatory trial and error. This karma system is necessary because as you go throughout the game, there are going to be these physical gates, and you cannot actually progress through the gate unless you have high karma. How do you get high karma? From living, not dying, and finding shelter throughout the rain cycles. The reason why the game is called Rain World is because every interval of time, whatever it is, there's going to be a torrential downpour, and if you do not have the right kind of shelter, you die. When you die, you lose karma. Do you see the problem here? It's a game where you really have no clue what you're getting into, and deaths are inevitable, but your karma score is going to go down. So if you happen to get to the gate and you don't have enough karma, you can't unlock it, you can't proceed. What do? You have to get food because there's a hunger meter, there's a health bar. Not a health bar, just a hunger meter. You have to get food to have enough fullness, enough satiation, so that you can stay in the shelter, so that you can raise your karma by 1 level. If you have not found enough food, and there have been a few cycles where for whatever reason I couldn't get the food, it's like, are you kidding me? So I actually can't go in the shelter, and I try to run them back out. Anyways, let me just keep it to the game's definition and explanation rather than too much of my own experiences. Although this explanation is derived from my frustration experiencing the game. So you see how these things are at odds with each other, right? So there's a karma system where you're trying really hard to stay alive. In order to stay alive, you have to seek shelter every 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And to do that, you also have to have enough food in your belly. At the same time, as you're going to these new screens, there's going to be new enemies and new traps, and you are going to die. It's going to bring your karma down, and it just wastes so much time. The way that I played this game, after a certain point, I just went into DevTools and I just made it so like I didn't have hunger or something like that. And I also had a map popped out on my second monitor because, you know what, I wanted to experience the game, but I was tired of playing it. I was tired of how long every section took, and I was tired of my mistakes being punished. I am not the right kind of player for this type of game. I will admit it. At the same time, I'm the kind of person who needs to beat the games that I play. I cannot just abandon games without beating them. So, who will enjoy this game? If you like these kinds of challenges, if you have the patience to overcome all of these trials, if you don't mind games like Boshi, I Want to Be the Guy, I'm not sure if Celeste is like this, but from what I gather, it's a really hard platformer as well. If you don't mind that in the midst of all your frustration, you can still enjoy the backdrops and the environments that are beautifully done. Like, let me get to the good parts about this game in a moment. If you can take all of that in, great. If you can piece together the story, which is, very cryptic, but comes together even on casual playthrough, you're gonna love it. How do you make the playthrough a little more casual? There are different difficulties, and the monk mode, which I did not play, has fewer enemies and they're less hostile. Also, those gates, when you go through them, they won't close behind you. So what does that mean? If you happen to die and lose karma, at least you can still traverse through the gate. You don't have to get your karma score back up to be able to open it again. Now, one caveat about the monk is that he does do less damage, but it's okay, that's to be expected. The idea is it's more of a passive playthrough, and you're just kind of enjoying the exploration. And when all these terrifying, not cannibals, what's the word I want here? Carnivorous creatures come by, you're meant to hide rather than fight. Now, what's good about the game? The music, really some nice tracks on the soundtrack. There's going to be some parts, some levels that you get to, and you're just going to sit back for a few moments and want to listen to more of the track play. Like I said multiple times, the environments, some of them are really beautifully done. And even the ones that are a little bit uglier, just because they have a lot of grays or blacks, the aesthetic is not necessarily as pretty as beautiful. You can still appreciate the work that went into them, and all of the assets look fantastic in this game. This is probably it's a very unique type of pixel look, but it is one of the best looking pixel games that I've played. And yeah, you're going to appreciate the creatures. Now, I think when people compliment the ecosystem and the ways that everything interacts with each other, I think they are exaggerating a little bit, but still, the way the creatures behave and the AI is also sometimes fun to just watch from afar. What is bad about the game? Like I've said, a lot of the knowledge and a lot of the learning, actually I haven't detailed this yet, it's esoteric learning. It's very cryptic. Some of the things feel impossible unless you have a guide. Have any of you played Minecraft and it's just like, how would I discover to do that? How would I discover to power my character up if I didn't look this up? How are you meant to discover this organically? Rain World has two things that I feel are very similar. One is a mercantile system where there are merchants in the game and you can trade with them. I never ended up doing it. I tossed them some stuff that I read that they enjoyed, but I never wanted to go further with it because the path to beating the game was a little bit different. And the other system that I had no clue about until after I beat the game and I continued reading about it was a taming system. Yeah, so some of the creatures in the game, you can actually tame them and have them be your companion, and they will protect you against other hostile creatures. How are you supposed to figure that out? So if those kinds of things interest you, and you know what, for the diehard fans, I'm sorry if I spoiled anything, but come on. People need to know these things going into the game. If you figured these things out for yourself, I would love to hear how you came upon these discoveries in the comments. Now, another bad thing, the lore and the story, which again, fans of the game will talk up a little bit. I don't know, the bits and pieces that you get as you progress, they're not all that interesting. It's mysterious. Some of it's really whimsical, and you can appreciate it for that. But when it all comes together with the ending, I just felt really underwhelmed. Even if I had spent more time playing the game and I didn't rush it with my little kind of God mode-like tools, I wouldn't have appreciated it anymore. It probably would have been an even more disappointing ending, because it's like, okay, that's how they wrote the story. Sure, fine. And then finally, it's just too long. Again, maybe if you're a fan of the game, you're going to enjoy that you get to spend so much time with it, but I have to imagine still, in your shoes, that it just drags on a little bit too long. The maps are too big, too convoluted, too many paths that go nowhere. So yeah, if you do get frustrated and you want to just beat the game, good luck, because there's going to be a lot of needless exploration that just wastes your time, that costs you hunger, that forces you to seek out more shelters, and the worst part about it, you won't actually know that you have to backtrack. You'll just realize that after a few hours, you're still in the same location, you're still in the same zone. It's like, how am I not finding the exit? How am I not getting to the next area? Shoot, I should probably go back a few rooms and see if that path leads anywhere different. So that's Rain World. A very frustrating game, but I know there's a hardcore player base out there who would like this game. So hopefully with all the footage, hopefully with what I've described, those of you who have better things to do, you've now been appropriately cautioned and you can just let this game be. Or if you're still curious, grab it on sale, play it on the Monk difficulty, and play as much as you want. And then those of you who have been looking for a really challenging game, who like the look of it, who don't mind difficulty, who can appreciate the exploration for all that it's worth, go ahead. I hope you do enjoy this game. That's it. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm looking forward to reading the comments from fans and from new players alike, and I will see you in the next video.